I thought the worst thing a mother could see was her child on the streets, until my daughter locked eyes with me and begged for my silence. This story is inspired by real-life submissions. Names and identifying details have been changed. I saw her at the red light on Fourth and Madison, holding a baby against her chest like she was trying to disappear into him. The cardboard sign said "Please help" in handwriting I would have recognized anywhere. My daughter's handwriting? Chloe's handwriting? My foot hit the brakes so hard the car behind me honked. I didn't care. I rolled down the window, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the button to work. The September heat hit my face, but I'd gone cold all over. "Chloe?" She looked up. For a second, I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe grief had finally made me see things that weren't there. But then her eyes met mine, and I watched her whole face crumble before she forced it back together. "Mom?" Her voice cracked on the word. The baby couldn't have been more than 3 months old. He was wrapped in a blanket that used to be white, his little face red from the heat. My grandson. A grandson I didn't know existed. "Get in the car." I reached for the passenger door handle, but Chloe stepped back. "I can't." "What do you mean you can't?" My voice came out too loud. An SUV changed lanes to go around us. Someone yelled something I couldn't hear. "Chloe, get in the car right now." She glanced over her shoulder at the intersection camera mounted on the light pole, then at the Ring doorbell camera on the corner house, then back at me, and that's when I saw it. Not just exhaustion, fear. "Mom, please." She moved closer, lowering her voice. "Don't tell anyone you saw me. Don't tell anyone." I couldn't process what she was saying. "Chloe, you're on a street corner with a baby. Where have you been? I haven't heard from you in 8 months. Your father died thinking you didn't care enough to." "I know." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I know, and I'm sorry, but you can't tell anyone. Especially not Ethan's family. Please, Ethan." The name hit me like cold water. The husband I'd met exactly twice before she stopped returning my calls. The man who'd smiled too much and answered questions I'd asked her. What did he do? The light turned green. Cars started honking. Chloe's shopping cart was wedged against the curb, and that's when I noticed it. Shoved between a garbage bag of clothes and a package of diapers. A manila envelope, bent and dirty, with the corner of official-looking papers sticking out. And a letter with a Social Security Administration logo? "Why do you have Social Security papers?" I asked. Her face went white. A traffic cop appeared at my window, hand raised. "Ma'am, you need to move your vehicle?" I understand." His tone said he didn't understand at all. He glanced at Chloe, then back at me, and I watched his expression shift into something I'd seen too many times since I turned 60. Pity mixed with dismissal. Sometimes older folks get a little confused in traffic. "Why don't you pull over up there? Take a minute." Confused. Like I was the problem. "I'm not confused," I said, but he was already waving me forward. Chloe grabbed my hand through the window. Her fingers were freezing despite the heat. 2 days, she whispered. "Give me 2 days. There's a hearing on Friday. If I can just make it until Friday without him finding me a hearing for what? Everything." She let go of my hand and stepped back. The house, the money, the baby, all of it. "He's got lawyers, Mom. Good ones. And he told me if I tried to fight him, if I told anyone what really happened, he'd make sure I never saw my son again." The traffic cop was walking back toward us. "Meet me at the Starlight Motel on Highway 9 tonight," I said quickly. 10 o'clock. Don't use your credit card. Don't call anyone. Just be there." She nodded once and turned away, pushing the cart toward the next intersection. I drove forward, my whole body shaking, checking my rearview mirror until she disappeared behind a FedEx truck. The traffic cop was writing something down, probably my license plate. I pulled into a pharmacy parking lot 3 blocks away and sat there, engine running, trying to breathe. My daughter was homeless, with a baby, and she was more afraid of asking for help than she was of sleeping on the street. The papers in that envelope. The Social Security letter. A hearing on Friday. Lawyers good enough to make her believe she'd lose her own child? I picked up my phone and stared at it. Who could I call? Who would believe me? Who wouldn't accidentally say something that got back to Ethan? Then I remembered. Miles. Miles Patterson from First National. The man who'd helped me sort out my own accounts after my husband died? The man who'd once told me that financial abuse was the quietest kind of violence because it left no bruises anyone could see. I pulled up his number and pressed call. Ruth? He sounded surprised. Everything okay? No, I said. Nothing's okay. And I need to know if you can access account records without the other person on the account finding out. There was a long pause. Ruth, what's going on? I watched a young mother load groceries into her trunk, a toddler pulling at her leg. Normal life. The kind of life my daughter should have. I think someone's been stealing from my daughter, I said. And I think she's too scared to tell anyone because he's convinced her the system is on his side. Another pause. Then, what's her name? I'll see what I can find. I gave him Chloe's full name, spelled out Ethan's last name, and hung up. The clock on my dashboard said 3:47 p.m. Friday was 2 days away. The Starlight Motel was 40 minutes from here. And somewhere in this city, my daughter was pushing a shopping cart full of everything she had left, praying no one would recognize her. I put the car in drive and headed home. But in my head, I kept seeing that envelope, those official papers, and the way Chloe had looked at that Ring camera like it was watching her even now. What exactly was happening on Friday? And what did those papers prove? The Starlight Motel wasn't the kind of place you chose. It was the kind of place you ended up at. I pulled into the parking lot at 9:45, 15 minutes early, and paid cash at the front desk. The clerk didn't ask questions. He just slid me a key attached to a plastic diamond keychain and told me checkout was at 11. Room 14 smelled like cigarettes and industrial cleaner. I left the door cracked and sat on the edge of the bed, watching the parking lot through the gap in the curtains. At 10:03, I saw her. Chloe pushed the shopping cart across the cracked asphalt. The baby carrier strapped to her chest now, her head turning every few seconds, like she expected someone to jump out from behind the ice machine. I opened the door before she could knock. Get inside. Quick. She stumbled in, and I locked the door behind her, sliding the chain into place. For a minute, we just stood there. Then she started crying, and I pulled her into my arms, careful not to crush the baby between us. I'm sorry, she whispered into my shoulder. I'm so sorry, Mom. Not now. Sit down. Let me see him. She lowered herself onto the bed, and I got my first real look at my grandson. He was sleeping, his tiny fist curled against his cheek. Beautiful. Perfect. And so small it made my chest hurt. What's his name? Anthony. After Dad's middle name? Her voice broke. I wanted to tell you. I wanted to call when he was born, but Ethan said my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A notification from my banking app. Unusual activity detected. I picked it up. Someone had tried to access the joint account. The one I'd added Chloe 2 years ago, back when she was in college, and I wanted her to have emergency access. The attempt was denied because I'd changed the password after my husband died. But the timestamp was 3 minutes ago. Chloe. I kept my voice steady. Does Ethan have access to your phone? She went pale. He has the password. He set up all my accounts when we got married. He said it was easier that way. She grabbed my arm. Mom, what if he's tracking it? What if he knows I'm here? Your phone's off, right? I think so. I don't know. I ran out of battery yesterday. She dug through the garbage bag in the shopping cart and pulled out a phone with a cracked screen. Dead. Good. Leave it that way. I showed her my screen. Someone just tried to get into the account I put you on? The joint one? That's impossible. I never gave him that information. You sure? She started to nod, then stopped. Wait. Last year, he said we needed to consolidate everything. For taxes. He asked me to write down all my account numbers and passwords. I thought he just meant ours. But she covered her mouth. Oh, God. I set the phone down and pulled out the manila envelope I'd seen in her cart. Tell me about these. She didn't want to touch them. I had to dump them onto the bedspread myself. Mortgage papers. A quitclaim deed. A power of attorney document with Chloe's signature at the bottom. And that Social Security letter informing her that her benefits application had been approved. You applied for Social Security? I didn't. She picked up the letter, hands shaking. I never applied for anything. But Ethan said we qualified because of Anthony. Some kind of dependent benefit. He filled out all the paperwork. In your name. He said it was faster that way. She looked at the power of attorney. I signed that when I was in labor. He brought it to the hospital and said it was for medical decisions. In case something happened and he needed to make choices for me. Medical decisions? I'd worked in a bank long enough to know what a power of attorney really meant. It meant he could do almost anything as her. Sign documents, access accounts, sell property. What about the house? It was his before we got married. His parents co-signed the mortgage. She touched the quitclaim deed. But he said we should add my name. Make it really ours. I signed this about 6 months ago. And then he took my name back off. I didn't know until she stopped, swallowing hard. Until he threw me out. He told me the house was his, always had been. And if I tried to fight him, he'd tell everyone I abandoned my family. The baby stirred, making a small sound. Chloe automatically started rocking. Her movements so practiced it was muscle memory now. Why did he throw you out? Because I asked about the money? Her voice went flat. We had savings. Almost $30,000. Money my dad left me? Money from my job before I got pregnant? And it was just ... gone. When I asked where it went, Ethan said I'd been spending too much. On baby things. On groceries. He showed me receipts, bank statements, all of it with my name on it. But Mom, I didn't buy half that stuff. I know I didn't. He forged your signature. Or he had my password and just did it himself. She looked at me. That's what the hearing on Friday is about. He filed for emergency custody. He's claiming I'm mentally unstable, that I left voluntarily, and that I'm a danger to Anthony. The room went very quiet. He's going to take my baby. Chloe's voice cracked. And there's nothing I can do because I signed all those papers. I gave him access to everything. I was stupid and trusting, and now, stop. I grabbed her shoulders. You weren't stupid. You were married. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a voicemail notification. I put it on speaker. Ethan's voice filled the room, smooth and calm and absolutely certain. Chloe, I know you're with your mother. I've already contacted my attorney about this. If you're not home by tomorrow morning, I'll have no choice but to involve law enforcement. You're not well. You need help. And Anthony needs to be somewhere safe. I'm willing to work this out, but you have to stop running. The message ended. Chloe was shaking so hard the baby woke up and started crying. He's not bluffing, she whispered. He knows people. Lawyers, cops, everyone. His family's connected. And I'm nobody. I'm just a girl who dropped out of college and married the wrong guy. I looked at the papers spread across the bed. The fake applications. The signatures that might or might not hold up in court. The power of attorney that gave him control over everything. No, I said. You're somebody with a paper trail. And that's the only thing that matters now. I picked up my phone and texted Miles. Need to meet tomorrow morning? First thing, bringing documents. This is bigger than I thought. His response came back in seconds. 9 a.m., main branch. I'll have everything ready. Chloe looked at me, hope and terror fighting in her eyes. What if it's not enough? Then we find more. I pulled her close again. But you're not doing this alone anymore. You hear me? Outside, a car pulled into the parking lot. We both froze. The engine idled for a minute, then drove away. He can't know I'm here, Chloe said. If he finds out before Friday, he won't. I didn't know if that was true, but I said it anyway. Because the alternative was letting her go back out there. Back to sleeping in parking lots and bus stations, waiting for Friday to come while Ethan built his case from the comfort of his house. Our house. The one he'd put her name on, then taken it right back off. I thought about that quitclaim deed. The timing. The fact that he'd done it quietly, without telling her. Chloe, when exactly did he take your name off the house? I don't know. He just told me it was done. But you signed the deed to add your name. So there has to be a record of when it was removed. Another signature? Another document. She stared at me. What if you're still on it? I said. What if he's lying about that too? The question hung in the air between us. Tomorrow, Miles could check the account. But who could check property records? Who could tell us if my daughter still legally owned half of the house Ethan had thrown her out of? And if she did, what else had he lied about? Anthony woke up screaming at 4 a.m. Chloe tried everything. Feeding, rocking, changing. Nothing worked. His little face turned red, his cries getting sharper, more desperate. Something's wrong. She looked at me, panic in her eyes. Mom, something's really wrong. I grabbed my purse. Community hospital. 10 minutes. The ER waiting room was almost empty. A man with his arm in a makeshift sling. An elderly woman coughing into her elbow. And us. The intake nurse took one look at Anthony and waved us through. How long has he been crying? 2 hours, Chloe said. Any fever? Vomiting? I don't know. I don't have a thermometer. The nurse's expression shifted slightly. I'd seen that look before. Judgment dressed up as concern. They put us in a room with cartoon animals on the walls. A doctor came in, young, efficient, asking questions while she examined Anthony. When was his last checkup? Was he up to date on shots? Any known allergies? Chloe couldn't answer half of them. The records were at home. Ethan's home. I can call the pediatrician, Chloe offered. Dr. Morrison's office. We'll handle it. The doctor stepped out. That's when Chelsea appeared. She wore scrubs and a badge that said social services, and she had the kind of face that had seen everything twice. She pulled a chair close to Chloe and sat down like she had all the time in the world. I'm Chelsea. I work with families in transition. She glanced at me, then back to Chloe. The doctor asked me to stop by, just to make sure you've got everything you need. Chloe's whole body went rigid. We're fine. I can see that. Chelsea's voice stayed gentle. But when a mom brings a baby to the ER at 4 a.m. and doesn't have basic medical records, it tells me something's going on at home. There's nothing, Chloe. I touched her arm. Tell her. So she did. Not everything. Just enough. The fight. The eviction. The threat about custody. Chelsea listened without interrupting. When Chloe finished, she asked one question. Did you sign any legal documents recently? Chloe pulled out the power of attorney from her bag. Chelsea read it twice. Then she stood up and left the room. 5 minutes later, she came back with a laptop and a man in a tie who introduced himself as the hospital's patient advocate. This document, Chelsea said, pointing at the screen, was supposedly notarized on March 15th. But there's no notary seal. No witness signatures. And according to the state database, no notary public named Robert Chun ever registered in this county. Chloe stared at the paper. But Ethan said, I know what he said. Chelsea's voice had an edge now. I've seen this before. The power of attorney that isn't legal. The financial coercion. The threat of taking the baby if you don't comply. So what do? You document everything. Chelsea pulled out her phone. Starting now. I'm filing a report with Adult Protective Services. They'll flag the case. I'm not an adult who needs protecting. I'm 29. You're a person experiencing domestic abuse? That qualifies. She looked at me. And you're the mother? Yes. Good. Because you're going to need to be her advocate when this goes to court. The patient advocate cleared his throat. There's something else. Someone called the hospital an hour ago asking about a patient named Chloe Richards. We told them we couldn't confirm or deny anyone's presence. But the caller was persistent. My blood went cold. Did they give a name? They said they were her husband. That he was worried about her mental state. Chloe grabbed my hand, her fingers ice cold. Chelsea stood up. We need to move fast. The hearing's Friday, right? That's less than 48 hours. We need medical documentation, financial records, and proof that the power of attorney is invalid. I have bank statements, I said. We're meeting someone at First National this morning. Perfect. Get everything. Withdrawals, transfers, anything with dates that don't match her story. She handed Chloe a card. And call me the second anything changes. If he shows up, if you get served with papers, anything. A nurse came in with Anthony, now sleeping peacefully in a clean blanket. Ear infection, she said. We're sending you home with antibiotics. Follow up in 3 days. Home. The word hung in the air. As we walked out through the waiting room, I heard the intake nurse talking to her colleague. These older ladies, they sometimes exaggerate family drama. You know how it is. I stopped walking. Turned around. Excuse me? The nurse looked up, startled. My daughter is being financially abused by her husband. Her baby has an ear infection that went untreated because she was thrown out of her own house with nothing. If you think that's exaggeration, maybe you should find a different job. The waiting room went silent. Chelsea caught up to us in the parking lot. Good for you, she said quietly. Then to Chloe. Listen to me. Ethan's going to make his move soon. He knows you're getting help. That call to the hospital? That was him testing the system. Seeing if he could control the narrative. Can he? Not if we're faster. She looked at her watch. It's almost 6. Banks open at 9. Courts open at 8. You've got a narrow window to build your case before he files something that makes you look like the unstable one. I thought about the power of attorney. The fake notary? The Social Security application Chloe never filled out. What if there's more? I asked. More fake documents? Chelsea nodded slowly. Then we find them before the judge does. She walked back to the hospital entrance, and I loaded Chloe and Anthony into my car. Mom, Chloe's voice was small. What if we can't prove it? What if the judge believes him? I started the engine. Then we make sure there's nothing left to believe. At a red light 3 blocks from the hospital, my phone buzzed. Miles, found something. You need to see this. 9 a.m. sharp. I showed Chloe the text. What do you think he found? I thought about the attempted account access. The missing $30,000? The quitclaim deed that may or may not be real? The truth, I said. Hopefully enough of it to matter. Because in 42 hours, a judge was going to decide if my daughter kept her son. And right now, all we had was a fake power of attorney and a stack of papers that might mean everything or nothing at all. Miles was waiting at First National with 2 folders and a grim face. Ruth? He shook my hand, then Chloe's. Conference room? Now. He locked the door and spread papers across the table like crime scene evidence. I pulled every transaction on the joint account for 18 months. He pointed to highlighted entries, found a pattern. Automatic transfers? Every 2 weeks. Small at first? 200. 300? Then bigger. 1,000. 1,500. I didn't authorize these, Chloe whispered. I know. Because they happened on days you were somewhere else. Miles handed her a printout. You were using your debit card at Target while someone transferred money from an IP address downtown. Ethan's office, Chloe said. Probably. But the money didn't go to his personal account. It went to an LLC, Redwood Holdings, registered 3 months before your wedding. I leaned forward. What's Redwood Holdings? Property management company? On paper? But it owns exactly one property. He slid over a document. The house you lived in? Chloe went white. His parents owned it. They co-signed the mortgage. But 2 years ago, title transferred to Redwood Holdings. Sole officer Ethan Richards. So he doesn't own the house. His company does, right? When he added your name to the deed, then removed it. He was playing games. You never really owned anything. The room went quiet except for Anthony breathing in his carrier. There's more. Miles hesitated. The life insurance policy. Beneficiary changed 4 months ago from you to Redwood Holdings. What? Chloe grabbed the paper. I never someone with power of attorney could. He pointed to the signature. Dated April 10th. The day you were at the hospital for your postpartum checkup. I felt sick. He used that fake document to move money while she recovered from childbirth. Miles nodded. A forensic accountant would spot this immediately. But there's a problem. Of course there was. The bank manager upstairs is processing a fraud claim, filed yesterday by Ethan Richards. He's claiming Chloe made unauthorized transfers. That he's the victim? Chloe made a choking sound. He's accusing me. He's accusing you of stealing from Redwood Holdings. Since the LLC owns the house and the account was joint, he might have a case if you can't prove you didn't authorize the transfers. But I didn't. I believe you. But the system needs documentation, not belief. I looked at the printouts, the timeline, the IP addresses, the pattern. Can you testify in court? I can provide records. But Ruth, I need to warn you. Linda upstairs already said this is a family matter. She mentioned that older women sometimes get confused about their daughter's finances. There it was. Age equals incompetence. I'm not confused, I said. Neither is Chloe. Miles gathered papers. I'll copy everything. But you need more. Something he can't explain away. My phone buzzed. Chelsea, call me now. I stepped into the hallway. Ruth, Chelsea sounded tight. Ethan filed an emergency motion. Immediate temporary custody. Claims Chloe's mentally unstable and homeless. The hearings moved up. To when? Tomorrow. 10 a.m. My heart stopped. Friday was he paid for emergency docket. And he's got a psychiatrist ready to testify about postpartum psychosis and parental alienation. I looked through the window at Chloe holding bank statements. We have proof? The transfers? The LLC? The fake power of attorney? Good. You'll need it all. Ruth? He's bringing his family. His lawyer. A whole narrative that makes him the hero. She hung up. I walked back in. Chloe and Miles looked up. What happened? I set my phone down. Hearings tomorrow morning? Tomorrow? Chloe's voice broke. We have this. I touched the records. And we'll find more. Miles typed on his laptop. One more thing. The Social Security application. If filed electronically, there's a timestamp and IP address. Can you access that? I know someone who can. He picked up his phone. Through the bank's glass windows, I saw a black sedan pull into the lot. My blood went cold. I'd seen that car in Chloe's wedding photos. At gatherings, she'd stopped inviting me too. Ethan's car? Get down, I said quietly. What? Get away from the window. Now. Chloe ducked below the conference table, clutching Anthony. Miles looked out. That him? Yes. We watched Ethan get out. Suit, sunglasses, phone to his ear. He walked toward the bank entrance like he owned the place. Maybe he thought he did. Back door, Miles said. Through the employee area. Go. What about you? I'll handle it. Go! I grabbed Chloe's arm and pulled her toward the rear hallway. We slipped through the break room, past startled tellers, out the back exit, into the parking lot. My car was 3 spaces from Ethan's. We ran. The letter arrived at my house 2 hours later, hand-delivered, certified. From Bradley and Associates, attorneys at law. I read it twice before my hands stopped shaking. Dear Mrs. Ruth Harmon, this office represents Mr. Ethan Richards in matters concerning the welfare of his minor child, Anthony James Richards. It has come to our attention that you are currently harboring Mrs. Chloe Richards, against the expressed wishes of her lawful husband and in violation of their marital residence agreement. Mrs. Richards is required to return to the marital home immediately. Failure to comply will result in emergency custody proceedings, wherein Mr. Richards will seek full physical and legal custody. Based on abandonment and mental instability, you are hereby advised to cease all interference in this domestic matter. Any further involvement may result in charges of custodial interference. Sincerely, Harold Bradley-esque. Chloe read it over my shoulder. They're saying I abandoned my own baby. They're saying whatever they think will stick. I grabbed my phone and called Chelsea. Already saw it, she said before I could speak. Ethan's lawyer sent a copy to the hospital, to protective services, and probably to every judge in the county. He's flooding the zone. Can he do that? He's doing it. But Ruth, there's something off about this letter. Besides everything, the timeline. It says Chloe violated a marital residence agreement. But there's no such agreement on file in family court. I checked. I looked at Chloe. Did you sign anything about staying in the house? No, never. Then he's making it up, Chelsea said. Which means he's desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind we can use. I'm coming to you. Where are you? My house? 447 Maple. Don't leave. I'm bringing someone. She hung up. Chloe sat on my couch, Anthony asleep in her arms, staring at the letter like it might explode. Mom, what if they're right? What if I did abandon him by leaving? You were thrown out. But I can't prove that. It's his word against mine. And his word comes with lawyers and psychiatrists and we have bank records showing he stole from you. A fake power of attorney. An LLC designed to hide assets. I sat beside her. We have the truth. Since when does that matter? I didn't have an answer for that. 20 minutes later, Chelsea arrived with a man I recognized. Anthony Chun, the notary public from the courthouse downtown. This is Ruth and Chloe, Chelsea said. Show him the document. I handed Anthony the power of attorney. He studied it for less than 10 seconds. This is fraudulent. You're sure? Positive? See this seal? It's from a template. You can buy them online. And this signature? He pointed. Robert Chun. That's not a real person. I know every notary in this county, and no one named Chun has been registered in 15 years except me. And I definitely didn't notarize this. Can you testify to that tomorrow? Absolutely. But I can do more. He pulled out his phone. I can file a complaint with the Secretary of State right now. Falsifying notary documents is a felony. If Ethan used this to access accounts or change legal documents, he's looking at real criminal charges. Chloe's eyes widened. Criminal? Forgery? Identity theft? Financial exploitation? Take your pick. Anthony started typing on his phone. I'm ceasing the county prosecutor's office. They'll want to see this. Chelsea leaned against my kitchen counter. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow at 10, Ethan's going to walk into that courtroom expecting an easy win. He thinks you're scared, that you'll fold. And if we don't, then we hit him with everything. The bank records Miles pulled. Anthony's testimony about the fake notary. The pattern of financial abuse. And we make him answer one simple question. What question? Chelsea looked at Chloe. If you're so unstable, why did he wait until now to file for custody? Why not when you were in the hospital? Why not when Anthony was first born? Why wait until the exact moment you asked about missing money? The room went silent. Because it was never about protecting Anthony, I said slowly. It was about protecting himself. Exactly. Chelsea picked up the lawyer's letter. And this is proof. He's not worried about his son's welfare. He's worried about going to jail. My phone buzzed. Miles. Got the Social Security records. Same IP address as the bank transfers. Call me. I showed everyone the text. That's 3 pieces of evidence, Anthony said. Fake notary, fraudulent transfers, forged government applications. That's not a custody case anymore. That's a criminal case. Chloe looked at me, hope and terror fighting in her eyes. What if it's not enough? I thought about that letter, the threats, the timeline that didn't match. The arrogance of a man who thought he could rewrite reality with expensive lawyers and fake documents. Then we find more, I said. We have 14 hours until that hearing, and I don't plan on sleeping. Outside, a car slowed in front of my house. Didn't stop, just slowed. Like someone checking an address. We all saw it. He knows where you live, Chelsea said quietly. Let him know. I closed the curtains. Because tomorrow, he's going to learn that scared and stupid are 2 different things. And we weren't scared anymore. The call came at 7 in the morning. Mrs. Richards. A woman's voice, official and cold. This is County Social Services. We need you to bring Anthony to the downtown office for a welfare check. Today, 9 a.m. Chloe's face drained of color. Why? It's standard procedure when custody concerns are raised. Do you need the address? I know where it is. The woman hung up. Chelsea called 30 seconds later. Don't go. What? It's a trap. Ethan scheduled it. I just found out. He's trying to get you in a public building where he can control the narrative. But if I don't show, then he tells the judge you're avoiding oversight. I know. Chelsea's voice was tight. You have to go. But I'm meeting you there. We arrived at 8:55. The county building was gray concrete and fluorescent lights. A waiting room full of tired people holding paperwork. Ethan was already there. He stood when we walked in. Suit, concerned expression, phone in his hand like he'd been waiting to document this exact moment. Chloe. His voice was gentle, loving, completely fake. I'm so glad you're okay. We've been so worried. People looked up, watching. Don't. Chloe held Anthony tighter. I just want to talk, to figure this out like adults. He stepped closer. You're not well. Your mother's been filling your head with, my mother saved me. Did she? Ethan's expression shifted slightly. Or did she confuse you? Make you think things were worse than they are? You know how older people can be. They mean well, but they don't always understand modern relationships. There it was. In public. Making me sound incompetent. A caseworker appeared in the doorway. Richard's family. We followed her into a small office. Ethan came too, uninvited. The caseworker was young, maybe 26, with a clipboard and a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm Jennifer Mills. I need to ask some questions about Anthony's living situation. She looked at Chloe. Where are you currently residing? With my mother? And before that, Chloe hesitated. I was staying at different places. Homeless, Ethan said quietly. She's been homeless with our son. Jennifer wrote something down. Mr. Richards, you'll have a chance to speak. Mrs. Richards, can you explain why you left the marital home? He threw me out. That's not true. Ethan pulled out his phone. I have texts, voice messages, all showing that I begged her to stay, to get help, but she refused. Because you threatened to take Anthony if I told anyone what you did. What I did. Ethan looked at Jennifer like she was a witness to his pain. I supported my family, paid all the bills, tried to get Chloe mental health treatment. And this is what happens. Her mother convinces her I'm some kind of villain. Jennifer's pen moved across the paper. Mrs. Harmon, are you involved in these domestic matters? Yes, I said. Because my daughter was asking for help at a traffic light with a 3-month-old baby. Dramatic, Ethan murmured. That's what I'm talking about. This whole narrative is dramatic. Chloe's not a victim. She's confused. And her mother's making it worse because, frankly, older women sometimes get lonely and over-involved in their children's lives. My hands clenched, but I kept my voice steady. Check the bank records. Check who's been transferring money out of joint accounts. Check who filed a fake power of attorney. A fake. Ethan laughed. Actual laughter. See what I mean? Conspiracy theories. Legal documents she doesn't understand, so they must be fake. Jennifer looked uncomfortable. I'm not here to adjudicate financial disputes. I'm here to assess Anthony's immediate safety. His immediate safety is with his father, Ethan said. In his own home? Not in some motel or temporary situation that keeps changing. The door opened. Chelson walked in, Anthony Chun behind her. Sorry we're late, Chelson said. Traffic. Oh, Mr. Richards, I didn't realize you'd be here. Interesting, since this was supposed to be a welfare check, not a custody ambush. Ethan's smile tightened. I have every right to be present when my son is being evaluated. Actually, you don't. Not without a court order. Chelsea set a folder on Jennifer's desk. But since you're here, maybe you can explain this. She pulled out the power of attorney. This document. The one notarized by Robert Chun on March 15th. Can you tell us where that happened? At the hospital? During a medical emergency. Anthony Chun stepped forward. I'm Anthony Chun, the only notary by that name in this county. And I've never seen this document or Mrs. Richards before today. This seal is fake. This signature is fake. And using it to access financial accounts is a felony. The room went very quiet. Ethan's face didn't change. That's impossible. I had it properly notarized. By who? I don't remember the exact office. Convenient? Chelsea pulled out more papers. Because we have bank records showing transfers made using this fraudulent power of attorney. We have timestamps matching your office IP address. And we have a social security application filed in Chloe's name from that same address. Jennifer looked between them, her pen hovering. This is harassment, Ethan said. And it's exactly what I'm talking about. They're manufacturing evidence to make me look bad. Manufacturing. Chelsea's voice was sharp. These are certified bank records. Misinterpreted by people who don't understand business finances. Ethan turned to Jennifer. This is what happens when family members get involved. They see normal transactions and turn them into conspiracies. Especially older women who, I'm going to stop you there, Chelsea said. Because that dismissive attitude toward Mrs. Harmon's age, that's going in my report too. Ethan's lawyer appeared in the doorway. Real lawyer now? Not just a threatening letter. This meeting is over, the lawyer said. My client is not answering questions without proper legal proceedings. Fine. Chelsea gathered her papers. See you in court in 1 hour. As we walked out, I heard Jennifer talking to someone. These cases are always messy. Young mothers and their mothers. They feed off each other's anxiety. Makes it hard to see what's real. Chloe heard it too. Her shoulders slumped. But Anthony Chun squeezed her arm. Documentation beats dismissal. Every time. And we have documentation. Outside, the morning sun was too bright. Too normal for what just happened. He's good, Chloe whispered. He made me sound crazy in front of her. He made himself sound desperate, Chelsea corrected. And now we have him on record lying about the notary. That plays in court. My phone buzzed. Miles? Got one more thing. Property records show something interesting. Call before court. 1 hour until the hearing. 1 hour to pull together every piece of evidence we had. And somewhere in that building, Ethan was planning his next move. But so were we. Miles met us in the courthouse parking lot with a manila envelope. Property records, he said, breathless. You need to see this before you go in. He spread papers across the hood of my car. Deed transfers, tax documents, LLC filings. Redwood Holdings took ownership of the house 2 years ago. But here's what's interesting. He pointed to a date. 3 weeks later, Ethan filed paperwork adding Chloe's name to the deed. We knew that, I said. Right? But look at this. Another document. He removed her name 6 months ago. Not after he kicked her out. Before, Chloe stared. Before, while you were still living there, still married. He quietly removed you from ownership while you thought you had equity in your home. Why would he do that? Chelsea asked. Miles pulled out another paper. Because he was planning to refinance. Take out a bigger mortgage. And he didn't want her signature required. Look at the loan application. Filed 5 months ago. Amount $200,000. My stomach dropped. Where did that money go? That's what a forensic accountant would ask. Because it's not in any account attached to his name. Or Redwood Holdings. It just, vanished. Chelsea took the documents. This goes beyond financial abuse. This is fraud. Possibly money laundering. Or gambling debts, Miles said quietly. Or another woman. Or both. Point is, he needed Chloe off that deed so he could borrow against the house without her knowing. The courthouse clock said 9:45, 15 minutes. Can we use this in the hearing? Chloe asked. We can try, Chelsea said. But custody hearings aren't criminal trials. The judge might say financial issues are separate from parenting ability. Then we make them connected. I looked at the loan documents. He stole $200,000 and blamed it on his wife. Then threatened to take her baby when she asked questions. That's not separate. That's the whole point. Chelsea nodded slowly. You're right. This isn't about Anthony's safety. It's about keeping Chloe quiet. We walked into the courthouse together. Through security. Up the stairs. Past people waiting on benches for their own disasters to be decided by strangers. Courtroom 3B was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, a judge's bench that seemed too high. Ethan was already there with his lawyer. And his parents. His mother wore pearls and a sympathetic expression. His father looked at us like we were something stuck to his shoe. We sat on the opposite side. Me, Chloe, Chelsea, Anthony, Chun, and Miles. The bailiff called the case. Richards v. Richards. Emergency custody matter. The judge was a woman in her 50s with reading glasses and zero patience in her expression. We're here on an emergency motion filed by petitioner Ethan Richards. Counselor, you have 10 minutes. Make them count. Ethan's lawyer stood. Tall, confident, expansive suit. Your Honor, my client is a devoted father seeking to protect his infant son from an unstable situation. Mrs. Richards abandoned the marital home 3 weeks ago, taking the child. Since then, she's been homeless, moving between temporary locations, refusing mental health treatment. Objection. Chelsea stood. Mrs. Richards didn't abandon anything. She was forced out by threat and coercion. You'll have your turn, Ms. Martinez. The judge looked at Ethan's lawyer. Continue. Mr. Richards has made repeated attempts to reconcile, to provide housing, medical care, stability, all refused. We have texts, voice messages, documented proof of his good faith efforts. Meanwhile, Mrs. Richards has involved her mother in this dispute, and frankly, Your Honor, Mrs. Harmon's interference has escalated the situation unnecessarily. I felt every eye in the room turn toward me. Mrs. Harmon is 66 years old, recently widowed, and while I'm sure her intentions are good, Older individuals sometimes misinterpret normal marital conflict as abuse. They see danger where there's simply disagreement. It clouds judgment. My face burned. But I stayed quiet. Mr. Richards is asking for temporary custody while Mrs. Richards receives appropriate psychiatric evaluation. Not as punishment, as protection. For everyone involved. He sat down. The judge looked at Chelsea. Your response? Chelsea stood. Your Honor, this isn't a custody case. It's a cover-up. Ethan's lawyer started to object, but the judge raised her hand. I'll allow it. For now. Chelsea approached the bench with our documents. Mrs. Richards didn't abandon her home. She was removed from the deed 6 months before she was physically forced out. Bank records show systematic theft from joint accounts using a fraudulent power of attorney. Here's testimony from a certified notary confirming the document is fake. She handed everything to the judge. Furthermore, Mr. Richards recently obtained a $200,000 loan against the property. That money is missing. And when Mrs. Richards asked about it, he threatened her with exactly this: a custody case designed to silence her questions. The judge flipped through papers. Her expression didn't change. Your Honor, Chelsea continued, Mr. Richards isn't worried about his son's welfare. He's worried about explaining where that money went. And he's using the system to punish his wife for asking. Silence in the courtroom. The judge looked at Ethan. Mr. Richards, do you have a response to these allegations? Ethan stood. Calm, composed. Your Honor, these are desperate accusations from desperate people. The power of attorney was legitimate. The loan was for home improvements. And my concern is, and has always been, my son's safety. Where's the $200,000? The judge asked. In escrow. For renovations that haven't started yet. Which escrow company? Ethan hesitated. Just for a second. I'd need to check the paperwork. The judge's eyes narrowed. You took out a massive loan 2 months ago and don't remember which company is holding the funds? It's handled through my business manager. I see. She looked at Chelsea. You have more. Yes, Your Honor. Much more. The judge checked her watch. Then we're going to need more time than I have this morning. This hearing is continued to Friday, 2 p.m. Mr. Richards, you will bring documentation of that loan and where the money is currently held. Mrs. Richards retains physical custody until then. Supervised visitation only for Mr. Richards. The gavel came down. Ethan's face went white. His lawyer was already whispering urgently in his ear. And I realized something. He'd expected an easy win. Expected the judge to see a young, unstable mother and an older, interfering grandmother and side with the clean-cut husband. But the numbers didn't lie. And now he had to explain them. We had 3 days until Friday. Ethan had 3 days to build a better lie. The call came Wednesday morning. His lawyer requesting an emergency conference call with the judge. New evidence. Critical information about Chloe's mental state. Chelsea was on speaker in my kitchen. He's going for broke. Claims he has hospital records proving Chloe was treated for postpartum depression and refused medication. That's not true, Chloe said. Doesn't matter if it's true. Matters if he can make it look true. Chelsea paused. He's also filed a motion claiming you abandoned the home voluntarily. Says he has a witness. What witness? His mother. She testified that you told her you wanted to leave, that you felt overwhelmed and needed space. Chloe's face went white. I never said that. I believe you. But she's his mother. She'll say whatever he needs. Chelsea's voice hardened. And there's more. He's claiming Ruth has been manipulating you. That she's coaching your testimony because she blames Ethan for her husband's death. My hands went cold. What? He's saying your husband died while you and Chloe were estranged. That you blame Ethan for keeping you apart. That this whole thing is revenge disguised as protection? That's insane. It's strategic. He's making you the villain. The bitter old woman who can't let go. Chelsea let that sink in. And honestly, it might work. Judges see grandparents overstepping boundaries all the time. If he can paint you as the problem, Chloe looks like a victim of two manipulators instead of one. I looked at Chloe holding Anthony, 3 months old. No idea his whole life was being decided by lies. What do? We prove he's lying. Again. But this time, it's harder because he's learned from his mistakes. He won't use fake documents. He'll use real people telling real lies. My phone buzzed. Miles, need to talk. Found something about the $200,000? Not good. I called him immediately. Ruth? Miles sounded tired. I traced the loan. The money went to an account in the Cayman Islands. Opened 2 months ago. Sole signatory, Ethan Richards. He's hiding money offshore. Looks like it. But here's the problem. It's legal to have offshore accounts. You just have to report them. And according to his tax filings, he did. Listed it as business investment capital. So we can't prove he stole it. Not without subpoenaing the Cayman account. Which takes months. And lawyers way more expensive than anything Chloe can afford. I closed my eyes. He planned this. Of course he did. He's been planning it for at least a year. Maybe longer. Move money offshore. Remove Chloe from the deed. Build a paper trail that makes her look unstable. Then force her out and take the baby before she can fight back. Except she did fight back. Because of you. Miles paused. Which is exactly what he's going to use against you both. The grandmother who swooped in? Who convinced her daughter to run? Who's manufacturing this whole crisis out of grief and loneliness? There it was again. That dismissal. That assumption. I'm not lonely, I said quietly. I'm paying attention. I know. But the judge doesn't know you. She sees a 66-year-old widow and a 29-year-old new mother. And she's going to wonder who's really driving this narrative. I hung up and looked at Chelsea through the screen. He's going to win, isn't he? Not if we're smarter. She leaned forward. Here's what I know. Ethan's lawyer requested the conference call for tomorrow at 9 a.m. That means whatever evidence they have, they're rushing it. Rushing means sloppy. Or it means they're confident. Maybe. But confident people don't move hearings up. They don't file emergency motions. They don't need their mothers to lie for them. Chelsea pulled up something on her computer. I've been digging into Ethan's background. His business, his finances before Chloe, and I found something interesting. What? He's done this before. The room went silent. What do you mean done this before? Chloe whispered. Different woman. 6 years ago. Engaged, not married. Same pattern. Joint accounts, sudden breakup, accusations of mental instability, but no baby, so no custody fight. She just disappeared from his life. Where is she now? That's what I'm trying to find out. But if I can locate her, if she'll talk to us, he'll say it's character assassination, I interrupted. Past relationships aren't relevant to current custody. They are if they show a pattern of financial abuse and coercion. Chelsea met my eyes through the screen. I need 24 hours. Can you keep Chloe safe for 24 hours? Yes. Then do it. Because tomorrow at 9, Ethan's going to try to rewrite everything. And our only shot is proving he's written this story before. She hung up. Chloe looked at me. What if we can't find her? What if she won't talk? Then we use what we have. I picked up the stack of documents on my table. Bank records. Property deeds. The fake power of attorney. This is still evidence. It still matters. Does it? Because Miles just said the offshore account is legal. And Ethan's lawyer is going to make me sound crazy. And his mother is going to lie under oath. And you, her voice cracked? You're going to be painted as the problem. The interfering old woman who made everything worse. I wanted to argue, to tell her that wasn't true. but I'd heard it too many times already. From the traffic cop, the hospital nurse, the bank manager, the caseworker. Older women get confused. They exaggerate. They interfere because they're lonely. Maybe I am interfering, I said quietly. But I'm not wrong. Chloe wiped her eyes. What if being right doesn't matter? Then we make it matter. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number? I answered. Mrs. Harmon? A woman's voice. Young? Nervous? My name is Sarah. Sarah Mitchell. Chelsea Martinez gave me your number. She said you might want to talk to me about Ethan Richards. My heart stopped. You knew him. I was engaged to him 5 years ago. And when Chelsea told me what he's doing to his wife, I realized I need to tell someone what he did to me. I put her on speaker. I'm listening, I said. And for the next 20 minutes, Sarah Mitchell told us a story that sounded exactly like Chloe's. Except her version ended with her losing everything and being too afraid to fight back. I'll testify, Sarah said when she finished. If it helps. If it stops him from doing this to someone else. I looked at Chloe, tears streaming down her face, hope fighting with disbelief. It helps, I told Sarah. More than you know. When I hung up, Chloe asked, do you think the judge will listen? I don't know, but she'll hear it. And that's all we can control. Outside, a car passed slowly. Same black sedan, same deliberate pace. He was still watching. But now, so were we. The conference call started at 9 a.m. sharp. Judge Morrison's voice came through the speaker. All business. We're on the record. Mr. Bradley, you called this emergency session. What do you have? Ethan's lawyer cleared his throat. Your Honor, we've obtained medical records from St. Anne's Hospital showing Mrs. Richards was diagnosed with postpartum depression and refused treatment. We believe this supports our concern about her ability to safely parent. Mrs. Richards. The judge's tone was neutral. Response. Chelsea leaned toward the phone. Your Honor, my client was screened for postpartum depression as part of standard care. The screening was negative. She was never diagnosed and never refused treatment. If Mr. Bradley has records stating otherwise, they're either misrepresented or falsified. I'm looking at them right now, the judge said. Dated April 20th. Signed by Dr. Patricia Owens. Dr. Owens retired in March, Chelsea said. Before this date, I have her retirement paperwork right here. She couldn't have signed anything in April. Silence on the line. Mr. Bradley. The judge's voice had an edge now. I'll need to verify with my client where these records came from. You do that? Quickly. Papers shuffled. Is there anything else? Because if this is the emergency, I'm not impressed. Your Honor, Ethan's voice joined the call. Calm. Reasonable. I just want my son safe. My mother witnessed Chloe saying she felt overwhelmed and wanted to leave. That's not fabrication. That's family trying to help. Ms. Martinez, you have witnesses? We do, Your Honor. Sarah Mitchell. She was engaged to Mr. Richards 5 years ago. She's prepared to testify about an identical pattern. Joint accounts emptied. Accusations of mental instability. Threats of legal action when she asked questions. Objection, Ethan's lawyer said immediately. Past relationships are irrelevant. Pattern evidence is absolutely relevant in abuse cases, Chelsea shot back. And this is domestic abuse. Financial, emotional, systematic. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Here's what's going to happen. Friday's hearing stays on calendar. Mr. Richards, you will bring documentation for that offshore account? Every transaction, every transfer. Ms. Martinez, your witness will testify. And Mr. Bradley, if you bring me falsified medical records again, we'll have a very different conversation about sanctions. Your Honor, we're done. See you Friday? The line went dead. Chloe looked at me, eyes wide. Did we just win? We didn't lose, I said carefully. That's not the same thing. But Chelsea was smiling. That judge is pissed. Fake medical records. That's a line you don't cross. Ethan just showed his hand, and it was weaker than he thought. My phone buzzed. Miles. The property deed. Found something. Chloe's signature on the removal form doesn't match her signature on the addition form. Might be forgery. Can you get me a sample of her real signature? I handed Chloe a piece of paper. Sign your name. Exactly how you always do. She signed. I took a photo and sent it to Miles. His response was immediate. That's not the signature on the deed removal. Not even close. He forged it. I showed Chelsea. That's criminal fraud, she said quietly. He removed her from the property using a fake signature. That's not a civil matter anymore. That's felony territory. Can we use it Friday? We have to. Because if that deed removal is fake, Chloe still owns half that house. And every financial move he made after that is suspect. The next 2 days crawled by. Thursday. Then Friday morning, we dressed in the best we had. Chloe in a simple dress, me in a navy suit I'd worn to my husband's funeral. At 1 p.m., we walked into the courthouse. Sarah Mitchell was already there, mid-30s, nervous but determined. She shook Chloe's hand and said, I should have done this years ago. You're doing it now, Chloe told her. That's what matters. Courtroom 3B was packed this time. Ethan, his lawyer, his parents, his mother in the same pearls, but her expression was harder now. Defensive. The bailiff called us to order. Judge Morrison took the bench and looked directly at Ethan. Mr. Richards. The offshore account? Documentation? Ethan's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we're still compiling. You've had 3 days. Where's the documentation? The bank is in the Cayman Islands. Time zone differences. Accessibility issues. So you don't have it. We're working on it. The judge made a note. Strike 1. Ms. Martinez, call your witness. Sarah took the stand. She was sworn in, and Chelsea walked her through it gently. Ms. Mitchell, how did you know the defendant? We were engaged. From 2018 to 2019? Can you describe the financial arrangement during your relationship? Sarah's voice was steady. Ethan suggested we open joint accounts. Said it was easier for planning the wedding, buying a house. I agreed. Within 6 months, my savings were gone. When I asked about it, he said I'd been spending too much. Showed me receipts I didn't recognize. Transactions I never made. What happened when you confronted him? He said I was being paranoid, that I needed to see a therapist. He even scheduled an appointment for me. Said if I didn't go, he'd have to reconsider the engagement. Chloe gripped my hand. Did you go? No. Instead, I went to the bank. They showed me the IP addresses for the transactions, all from Ethan's office. When I told him I knew, he broke off the engagement and threatened to sue me for defamation if I told anyone. Did he return the money? No. He said it was joint funds. Legally, his as much as mine. By the time I could afford a lawyer, he'd moved it somewhere I couldn't trace. Chelsea nodded. Thank you. No further questions? Ethan's lawyer approached. Ms. Mitchell, isn't it true you're still angry about the breakup? I'm angry about being robbed. Yes. You have no proof these accusations are true, do you? I have bank records. Transaction logs. Everything I kept from 6 years ago, I brought them today. She pulled a folder from her bag. Chelsea took it to the judge. The courtroom was silent as Judge Morrison flipped through pages. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Richards, this shows an identical pattern. Joint accounts, unexplained transfers, offshore movement of funds. Do you have an explanation? Ethan stood. Your Honor, that was a different situation, a different relationship. Ms. Mitchell and I had financial disagreements, but that has nothing to do with my marriage or my son. Except it does, the judge said, because it shows a pattern of behavior. And patterns matter when we're deciding who's trustworthy. She turned to Miles, who'd been called as a witness. Mr. Patterson, you analyzed the current financial records. What did you find? Miles stood. Systematic theft from joint accounts. Fraudulent power of attorney used to access funds. Property deed altered with what appears to be a forged signature. And a $200,000 loan that's unaccounted for. Mr. Richards? Where's the $200,000? Ethan's jaw tightened. Business investments. Legitimate business investments. In the Cayman Islands. Without your wife's knowledge or consent. She didn't need to consent. It's my business. Funded with marital assets. From a house she coned. The judge looked at the deed. Except she didn't cone it. Because you removed her name without her knowledge. Using what appears to be a forged signature. That's not Mr. Richards. I've heard enough. Judge Morrison set down her pen. This court finds that Mrs. Richards was subjected to financial abuse, coercion, and fraud. The power of attorney is declared invalid. The deed removal is under investigation for forgery, and I'm ordering an immediate forensic audit of all marital assets. Ethan's face went white. Furthermore, Mrs. Richards is awarded full temporary custody. Mr. Richards will have supervised visitation only until the financial investigation is complete. If criminal charges are filed, this court will revisit custody arrangements. The gavel came down. Ethan's mother started crying. His lawyer was already whispering urgently. But Chloe was looking at me, tears streaming down her face. It's over, she whispered. It's beginning, I said. The real beginning. Because for the first time in months, my daughter wasn't running. She was standing still, safe, heard. And that was everything. The final hearing was 6 weeks later. By then, the forensic accountant had found everything. $200,000 in the Caymans. Another $75,000 in a separate offshore account. Forged signatures on 3 different documents. A pattern of theft going back to the week after Chloe and Ethan's wedding. The prosecutor's office filed charges: wire fraud, forgery, identity theft, financial exploitation. Ethan took a plea deal. 5 years probation, full restitution, supervised visitation with Anthony until he turned 18. His parents stopped calling, stopped showing up, disappeared back into their comfortable life like none of this had ever touched them. But we were still standing. Chloe and Anthony moved into a small apartment near my house. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with actual sunlight, a mailbox with just her name on it. She got a job at the public library, part-time while Anthony was small. Miles helped her open new accounts, ones with passwords only she knew. Chelsea checked in every week, just to make sure. And me. I learned something I should have known years ago. Silence isn't love. It's fear dressed up as peace. I'd stayed quiet when Chloe stopped calling, when she missed holidays, when Ethan answered her phone and made excuses. I told myself it was respecting boundaries, giving her space, not interfering in her marriage. But respect and silence aren't the same thing. And sometimes love means speaking up, even when it's uncomfortable. Even when people call you interfering or bitter or confused. Even when the system tries to dismiss you because of the number of years you've been alive. 3 months after the final hearing, Chloe and I were at the park with Anthony. He was sitting up now, grabbing at grass, laughing at nothing. I keep thinking about that day, Chloe said quietly. At the traffic light. What if you hadn't stopped? What if you'd just driven past? I wouldn't have. But what if you had? What if I'd never asked for help? Never told you? She watched Anthony pull at a dandelion. He would have taken everything. My baby. My name. My whole life. And I would have believed I deserved it. You didn't deserve any of it. I know that now. She looked at me. Because you didn't let me disappear. Even when it would have been easier. Even when everyone kept saying you were just an old woman who didn't understand? I smiled. I'm not that old. You know what I mean? She wasn't smiling. They tried to make you invisible. The cop, the nurse, the caseworker, even Ethan's lawyer. They kept acting like your age made you wrong. Like being 66 meant you couldn't see what was right in front of you. They were wrong. They were scared. Chloe picked up Anthony, kissed his head. Because if they admitted you were right, they'd have to admit they almost missed it. That they almost let him get away with it because it was easier to believe the young husband than the older mother. We sat there while Anthony pulled at my necklace, drooling and perfect. Sarah called me yesterday, Chloe said. She's pressing charges too. Civil suit for the money he took from her. She said watching me fight gave her permission to stop being afraid. Good. She also said something else. She said for 5 years, she thought she was the only one, that she'd done something to deserve it. But seeing the pattern, seeing it happen to someone else, she realized the problem was never her. It was always him. Anthony started fussing. Chloe pulled out a bottle, and he latched on immediately. I don't want you to miss what happens next, she said quietly. All the good parts. First steps, first words. Growing up safe. I want you there for everything. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. Promise. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I used to think asking for help meant I was weak. That good mothers figured things out alone. That good wives kept problems private. And now I know that staying silent almost cost me everything. She looked at Anthony. And I'm never doing that again. We stayed until the sun started setting. Until Anthony fell asleep in his stroller. Until the park emptied and it was just us and the sound of evening birds. On the way to the car, Chloe said, Mom, thank you for not listening when everyone said to stay out of it. You're my daughter. I wasn't staying out of anything. She smiled. Real smile. The first one I'd seen in years that reached her eyes. That night, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea and thought about all the small moments that added up to this. The traffic light, the motel, the hospital, the bank, the courthouse. All the times someone had tried to dismiss me. To make my concerns sound like confusion, my clarity sound like interference. And I thought about all the other women my age. The ones who see things clearly but stay quiet because they've been told their voices don't matter anymore. That they're too old to understand modern problems. Too out of touch to have valid concerns. We're not confused. We're just paying attention. And sometimes, that's the most dangerous thing we can do. I picked up my phone and texted Chloe. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever lived through something like this. Then I deleted it and smiled. Because this wasn't a story for comments. This was just life. Messy and hard and worth fighting for. And we'd fought. And we'd won. Not because the system was fair. Not because justice was automatic. But because when it mattered most, we didn't stay quiet. We spoke up. And that made all the difference.